All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started with the program. I just want to say thank you to everybody that made it out today. We've had some spectacular weather this morning and early afternoon, and it's great to see everybody out here just socializing again, right? It seems like this event's been really good for that, and I really appreciate everybody making it out at this time. With that, you know, I did have a 15-minute speech, but I'll cut it down now since it's starting to warm up a little bit. But I do want to touch on a few things as we talk about RD 108 and what makes this an extremely special place, not only to me, but everybody that's here touches this district one way or in another. And you know, as I look out into the crowd, it's amazing to see the people that we have gathered today. You know, our partnerships is what's really moved us forward over the years. Back in the late 1800s when we first, I say we, because I feel like some of the problems we faced then are some of the problems we're facing now, but it was those partnerships and the people and taking a leadership role in California water that really brought us to where we are today. You know, we've gone through a lot of growth in the last 152 years now. And, you know, it's something that we can pause today and step back and really enjoy and celebrate how far we've come in that 150 years and moving forward. I mean, we've have amazing partners with the Bureau of Reclamation. They're seated over here. We have the state, you know, with California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the State Water Resource Control Board, just to name a few of our partners that we've been really leaning on over the last few years, and we'll continue to strengthen and work on those partnerships. You know, and those have been there since the beginning. I think some of the things that have added over time has been our partnerships with our NGO folks, with the Birds, Ducks Unlimited, and others. You know, just Cal Trout is probably our newest river partners. You know, we're now into the fish world, so it's just an amazing time, and when you stop and think about it and really put it into perspective of where we've come in 150 years, to me, it's always been amazing. You know, we can look back on our history to try to glean something else out, some little nugget that maybe we forgot, but we have to keep looking forward. And that, again, is our partnerships. As we move forward, we're going to build stronger partnerships and grow together. And that's really how we're going to move California water to its new phase. You know, RD 108's been a leader. We'll continue to be leaders. This is just a special place where we want to preserve what we have, but, you know, you can't do that by just trying to hide in the sand anymore. You actually have to step out and start to lead. And I think that's what we've done really well here. So with that, you know, I just want to say again, thank you for coming out. Really appreciate it. And I know it's starting to get warm. I do want to take a second to recognize the board of RD 108. So if the trustees could please stand. Fritz Durst, Todd Miller, Hillary's back in the shade in the very back. Unfortunately, Sean couldn't make it today, but you know, I just want to say personally to all of you, thank you for all that hard work and time that we put into the different projects, all the different committees we're on. I know it's a stretch, you know, and it takes a lot of time from our families and other places we could be. So again, I just want to recognize that and say thank you. Again, thank you, Hillary. Hats off to you for throwing this amazing party. Hillary was the chair of the 150th committee. So, you know, just again, thank you for such a great party. And I want to say thank you to the landowners, Carrie Andriotti and Lauren Miller Benino, as well as our staff. We have an amazing staff here at RD 108. And without them, these tables and chairs wouldn't be there. Lewis and I couldn't have got them there in time. So sorry, but they do an amazing job, and they keep coming back for more, and really appreciate all the hard work they do. And I also want to say thank you to the Arbuckle FFA for the floral arrangements here on the table. It was such a nice touch, I thought, to be able to have our local high school, be involved in this this event, and really appreciate all the flowers and the hard work they put into that. Now, I do want to recognize some of our elected and appointed officials, and the ones that I've seen, I've had a chance to talk to. Hopefully I don't forget anybody, and I'll just apologize now because I probably did. I know we have Denise Carter, Supervisor of Colusa County. Doris Kalsbeck Smith, Supervisor, Colusa County. Angel Barajas, Supervisor of Yolo County. I believe Joe Countryman is still here, board member, Central Valley Flood Protection Board. There you are. And then also I'd like to recognize Doreen Didi Adamo, the Vice Chair of the State Water Resource Control Board. We also have with us today Camille Tootin, Commissioner of the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. Ernest Conant, the Regional Director. There he is in the back. He's usually the tallest guy in the room. He's pretty easy to find. Don Bader, Area Manager for NCAO. And of course, Doug Lamaffa, Congressman. And those are the ones that I had on my list. I'm sorry if I skipped anybody, but I apologize. Well, now we'll jump into our guest speakers. And with that, I would like to call up Denise Carter, Colusa County Supervisor.
Seen you earlier.
I know.
Thank you. Let's see. Good afternoon. It's really fantastic to be here along the levee. Your levees aren't as steep as they are behind my house, but so it wasn't as difficult to climb. But I'm really happy that we have this 150 years of celebration. And when you think about where this came from, what used to be swamplands, we now have this incredible agricultural environment surrounding us, which many of us in this area call home. These lands were reclaimed thanks to the efforts of those who recognize the fertile soils and plentiful water that exists here. And of course, sometimes there's excess water. Colusa County's own Will S. Green, our father of irrigation, was instrumental in developing plans to, as George Bassey says in his book, Battling the River, harness the waters of the Sacramento River and its use for irrigation in the valley. The original landowners here in RD 108 were a tenacious bunch who worked through many challenges of reclaiming these swamplands from high flows from the river, as well as the high flows from the western hills. And here in RD 108, here we are, 150 years later, farming a variety of crops for our nation and the world, while also recognizing and enhancing our ecosystem through the many efforts that they lead. And their RD 108 has really been instrumental in innovation and projects that will benefit waterfowl, fishery, and wildlife in our county and in our area. Personally, I've had the opportunity to work with Louis Bear and the staff on flood protection work and other floodplain work, and I really appreciate being involved in those things. I became a county supervisor 14 years ago, and I've been working on those projects ever since. The RD 108's landowners, farmers, board of trustees, managers, and employees have given unselfishly of their time, their creativity, their expertise, and resources to benefit the entire Sacramento Valley. As a representative of the Colusa County Board of Supervisors, along with those of us who live and work in this special valley, we look forward to continued collaboration in this work. Thank you very much. And we do have a nice little proclamation for you wherever Roger is. Voila. Oh, yes, the other way. Thanks, Roger.
Thank you. Yeah, there are stairs here in front of the podium, so everybody can use those. Denise is a daredevil. She likes to take those chances. Next, I would like to introduce Angel Barajas, Supervisor of Yolo County.
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing? Great. Well, my name is Angel Barajas. I'm the chair of the Yolo County Board of Supervisors. It's my honor to be here before you all today to celebrate this historic 150-year anniversary of RD 108. Huge round of applause to all of those individuals on previous boards, the current board, the staff, the family, people that put in tremendous amount of time to continue on with this legacy of the RD 108 and all the great benefits that it provides, not only for this region, but also your sister city region, sister county region of Yolo County. We do have some reclamation districts that connect in Dunnigan and also Knights Landing. And we're very, very proud to be working in partnership with the directors and the staff to enhance the quality of life in this region. So yesterday, I had the honor of providing a proclamation on behalf of the Yolo County Board of Supervisors to Fritz Durst, who came to the Board of Supervisors and was able to receive this. But today, I'd like to read some of the whereas and then be able to provide our own proclamation. All right. Whereas on October 4th, 1870, the State Land Office, having received a petition and order, assigned the number 108 to the new district. It was initially referred to by the State Land Office as Swampland District number 108. But the term swampland was later changed to reclamation. And whereas for flood control immediately following its formation, the district began construction of a levee on the west side of the Sacramento River from Knights Landing to Upper Sycamore Slough, a distance of approximately 40 miles. And the district was later instrumental in the construction of other flood control facilities, including a drainage facility along the west side of the district and an additional levee commonly known as the back levee. And whereas the district has provided critical leadership and vision and has invested both financial and human resources in ongoing efforts to construct and operate the site's reservoir project. And whereas over the years, the district landowners, farmers, board of trustees, managers, and employees have given unselfishly of their time, creativity, expertise, and resources, resulting in the countless benefits to the Sacramento Valley region as a whole. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Supervisors looks forward to continued collaboration with Reclamation District number 108 to preserve and enhance the remarkable land, water, environmental, and human resources of the Sacramento Valley region. Passed and adopted 28th day of June 2022 by the following vote, 3-0 vote. Thank you all, and I'm going to go ahead and leave this to your chairman, Mr. Cornwell. Thank you.
Nobody likes the stairs. Nobody? All right, next on our agenda is somebody we all know. We spend a lot of time with in DC, and know he's been instrumental in helping not only RD 108, but every region here in the North State rise together. With that, I would like to introduce Congressman Doug LaMalfa. Yeah.
Well, good afternoon. Great day here in order to celebrate 150 years of the great work. Actually, 152, isn't that technically correct here, since we had to take a little pause for COVID business? So anyway, great to be with you here once again. And I don't have any proclamations because technically this isn't my jurisdiction, at least for another, if a certain election goes all right, but I won't get into that. But it'll be, we're really tickled and proud to be able to regain this portion of the country in the new congressional district, should that all work out. But that said, it's been very good to work side by side with all you folks here in 108 and all up and down the whole stem here, from that place in Mount Shasta City in a certain park where you can see the trickle of the river, the Great Sacramento River, start all the way down. So it's really wise to have that regional approach, and I see so many people here from the various districts all up and down that are here today helping you celebrate, but also be part of just a whole regional solution if we can find them these days. Obviously, I don't need to recount how difficult this year is and bum you out even more on that, but believe me, we know, we're aware, and we're looking for long-term solutions as well as the short ones to help. So it just really boils down to how do we manage our resources and how do we increase our resources, and that doesn't seem to be politically talked about enough, increasing our resources. And when we see trillions of dollars being spent in Washington, D.C., borrowed money, most of it, we got to do better because the people are not being provided for. The people of this country, if you're middle class or lower income or what have you, they're especially suffering right now with everything that's going on. And the way things have been worked and allocated, the endangered species that they claim to be trying to help are suffering. All species are suffering badly up and down the stem and everywhere too. You can't help quite what drought is, but on the other hand, we know drought is something that's going to happen in this climate in the western states that we have. It's going to happen, and it does happen. Why are we managing differently now than in the past? What's going on? We got to take a much harder look at the Endangered Species Act, not because we're not going to adhere to the concepts of it, but are we being effective? We've had 30 years of sending water out through the Delta, and the Delta smelt is no longer existent. Yet the same amount of water or more increases are still being demanded to fix a situation that isn't being fixed in that fashion. So what do? If we increase the resources we have, meeting more storage, and a lot of hard work by a lot of people right here today and some that couldn't be here on making Sites Reservoir, talked about for 50 years, but coming glacially to fruition. We see it on the horizon. It can happen. I hope there's no last-minute curveballs that take it off the table once again, getting we can get the infrastructure built, which we intend to, and I believe we will, but that we also have the wherewithal and ability to actually fill it, that they don't come up with something to say, oh, you can't pump that water. We're going to have to fight like dogs to make sure it continues to happen. And the possible raise of Shasta Dam, 18 and a half more acre feet, 630,000 more acre feet when you fill the thing. This previous administration was very intent on moving that along. Stood up there with two different secretaries of Interior looking at that. So it's all to the plus, all to the good. So our focus on this, when we start talking about infrastructure, that word, once again, infrastructure actually means building things like we've done in the past, like they had the foresight to do here 150 years ago, like we had with the whole Central Valley Project, the State Water Project, and many other things that have happened in the West. So drought is a part of a cycle of life. We deal with it. But even then, in what's a so-called drought year, we had an amazing amount of rain in October and December, rain and snow as well. Now, some things weren't managed in my view, but I won't go into all that. In light of that, because our two big lakes were still at less half the capacity at that time, yet water was still running unabated almost out through the ocean. And so here we see, as we drive up and down the roads, the back roads, the freeways here on the west side of the valley, seeing the devastation to the crops and the wildlife that goes with them. Why? We have to do better. We know what to do. We know how to do it. We just have to overcome the artificial barriers to getting it done. We're going to build the storage, and we're going to look at how we're managing water. Are we getting the bang per the gallon we should be getting, no matter what it is, right? And that doesn't mean agriculture is no longer a beneficial use. You know, I'm going to close on this here. Decisions we're making in California as a state, in the western states as a country, they have not only effects on farmers here in Northern California. Nationally, I talk about all the time in Congress. I try and take as much time as opportunity as I can to get on C-SPAN and tell people from New York why water in California is important to the tomatoes they're going to need grown to make pasta and pizza sauce, right? It's important to them. What's our focus going to be? We got to get some wins here and get them rapidly, because I can't stand seeing what's going on. And the people have to actually live with it, you know. Farmers are pretty resilient, but there's a lot of other people down that chain too. People that sell tractor tires, the laborers, the people in town that provide all the other services we need. If we don't have the economy, I was talking with your ag commissioner a little bit ago, you know, just simple things like the dollars that come from the mill tax, because nobody's buying the products that produce the mill tax, right? It devastates everybody. We have to produce. We're a country that produces. We've wasted 2 years being less than productive, and now on top of this, they're taking the water away. We have to fight. We need all your voices. I can't do it by myself, obviously. We have to have all of our voices talking about this across the whole spectrum. The food, the species, the suffering of our landscape. What we didn't plant this year is what we're not going to be eating, what we're not going to find on the store shelves in 2023. It's not going to be there. You're already seeing high prices of different food products. We won't even talk about fuel, but just at the prices on the store shelf for groceries. People need to understand it's not some farmer cutting a fat hog, so to speak. It's much bigger. We need all of our voices to be out there preaching that. I can do it as a politician, but your voices are actually extremely important too. So I hope we'll all work together on that, because hold on to your hat for what 2023 is going to look like on food prices, food availability. As I tell some folks here, like, oh, you know, maybe we can pay $20 for a loaf of bread. You know, maybe we can do that. But the people in other countries that we help with what we produce, third world, second world, what have you, they're the ones that are really, really going to be suffering on this. We got to get a handle on this. So I know that's not a very cheery deal, but it's hard to not talk about the reality of what is it. What I'm asking you to do is please, please, all of us side by side, preach the message of what needs to be done. Water storage, water allocation, production of the resources, production of the things that make a difference to actual people in this country and others around the world. Because the United States has always been the beacon of light around the world, including at home, obviously, for the land of plenty. Why are we living almost like paupers here? No need for it. We know what we need to do. So with all that, congratulations, RD 108, for 150 plus years of making it happen, of having the vision, and being part of the solution for you here, but all up and down the stem for all the various things that need to happen, whether it's fighting for Sites Reservoir and also things like a simple deal. I was talking with Lewis a little bit ago about the Tisdale Weir situation, the cleanup of that a few years ago and how tough that was going to be, but all working together, got that done, made a big difference on flood control around here. So we all benefit from that interrelationship and doing what we got to do. So congratulations to you. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be able to serve with you. And so good luck. Let's go make this a big win. God bless you all.
Thank you, Congressman. Next up is one more speaker. And I was trying to think. I joined the board of RD 108 in 2004, 2005. And when we first started going back to DC, or when I first started going back with our contingent, we used to go to this tiny little office space out in the middle of nowhere, it felt like. I believe it was the Ford office building is where we used to go to talk to the Bureau. And I now look at where your office is. It's changed a lot. But, we developed a great partnership from those visits, and here we are today. And it's my pleasure to introduce Camille Tootin, Commissioner of Reclamation. Good idea.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Lewis. Thank you to RD 108, the board, the landowners, for having us here today. My name is Camille Klimlim Tootin, and I serve as the Commissioner of the Bureau of Reclamation. As Roger and Lewis know, Ford House Office Building is a secret house office building. So as the kids would know, if you know, you know. That's where the business gets done. And good afternoon as well to Congressman LaMalfa. I appreciate the invitation to join you all today. I started my day in Shasta with Donnie Bader, seeing our facilities out there, fully recognizing that lake shouldn't look like what it does right now. Spent the day driving through the valley and recognizing what a tough year it is today, this year. But what I appreciate about our partnerships is our ability to celebrate the good. This is one of those. This is an ability for us to be able to say we're celebrating the good. So happy birthday, 150 plus 2, from your younger federal partner at 120 years last month. So we kicked off our birthday party as well last week with BF Sisk. We were able to do a $100 million groundbreaking there to be able to do seismic work there. But it reminds me of what we're doing here with Sites Reservoir, your partner with Reclamation. The ability for us to take existing infrastructure, but also be able to look out into the horizon and say, what else do we need? What else can we do? And one of the things that I think is really important about us as Reclamation, there's about 6,000 of us across the American West. We manage water and power, but Shasta Dam is just concrete and rebar without the people, without Donnie, without his team. And that's the important part for us. We are people, but we also serve the people. We accomplish our mission only through partnerships, and that's with you. I know our actions directly impact the lives and livelihoods of millions, not just here, but across the American West. And as dedicated public servants, we cannot and we will not lose sight of that. And that's something that I know we share with you. Lewis, we share with you as well. We realize we serve the people. And the fact that RD 108 has been here for 150 years is a testament to its focus on service, to innovate, adapt, and its willingness to work cooperatively to address all challenges, present and future. Again, that's shown in your work on this year, our conversations on VAs, and it's shown in your investment at Sites Reservoir. And that's a collaborative approach for all of us. And just as you do, Reclamation sees the benefits of that reservoir and we need to move forward. And I'm really proud that Reclamation has been able to invest $400 million in water storage in this administration, almost exclusively in California. And we'll keep working to make sure that we invest in the places where it makes sense. And what RD 108 and other folks tell us, this is where it makes sense. And so we're looking to leverage our existing infrastructure, new water supplies, upgrade existing infrastructure projects. We just announced $240 million in aging infrastructure. 46 of those 20 projects are in California. It's $153 million. And we're just getting started on the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I look forward to working with all of you on all of those activities. Because as Congressman LaMalfa said, it's not Reclamation's money, it's the American people's money, and we want to put it to good use. So thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I am so glad that we can be partners. I look forward to working together, but also for the partnership between our agencies for the next 100 years. So happy birthday.
Didn't want to use the stairs. Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Really appreciate those words. And again, thank you and your staff for making it here today. Next up is our video. We put together a video. They want, I don't know how to introduce this video other than it's RD 108. It's who we are. Hopefully it can bring out the essence of RD 108 onto film. And with that, I hope we're teed up and ready to go. Everybody just enjoy.
This may look like just any old two-lane road, but this area is home to one of the most innovative corners of California. You may balk at that statement, but without the brave efforts of forward-looking men and women taking on a seemingly impossible task, the valley and much of the West does not become what we know of it today. More than 150 years ago, these men and women took on the challenge of taming the mighty Sacramento River, the most volatile river system in this country.
In the mid-1800s, the federal government wanted to reclaim swamplands, so they turned the lands over to the state of California, and the state, in turn, paid landowners to reclaim the land and put it into productive use.
This land here behind me and all circling me was once a swamp, tule, and the state of California needed more food for the miners and all the people that were immigrating here. And so they gave incentives to the growers. If you were to improve your land, the state would grant you the land for free, kind of like homesteading.
My family came out in 1853. Many people came out originally to mine, but my family were farmers, and so they were very attracted by the Swamp Act. They purchased letters patent from the state of California, United States of America, state of California, whereas under the provisions of an act of Congress of the United States approved an act to enable the state of Arkansas and other states to reclaim swamplands within their limits, in which act the manner of selecting and setting apart swamp and overflowed lands is fully set forth.
So we had water. The land was fertile. It just needed to be reclaimed. It needed to be cleared. It needed to be put into production.
It was a humongous task and probably underestimated at the time of actually how huge the task was going to be, but the opportunity was once in a lifetime.
So they moved in, and the first thing they had to do was they had to control the flooding. because in many, many years, right where I'm sitting right now, the water might be 8 feet deep here. And it might be here all summer long.
So they started building levees in about Knight's Landing and started working upstream. And they kept building levees to try to keep the waters out, and frankly, the river was winning.
So for the first couple decades, as people settled here in the valley and RD 108 was formed, the settlers would face huge floods on a regular basis that would wipe out everybody's farm. And so that's when the first levees were built, to try to channelize that river, to control the river. Even over the next 2 decades, those levees would give way to these huge floods that would happen here in the district. It just shows the families that farmed here the resolve to stay here and battle the river.
They took a lot of risks because early times this river flooded quite often and the levees weren't very high.
Even if they were successfully keeping water out from the Sacramento River, water was flooding from the backside of the district, and it would sit there for months and months and keep this farmland out of production. So in the end, they ultimately had to not only battle the Sacramento River, but they needed to protect the backside. They built a levee on the backside with a drainage canal and ultimately had to cut through the ridge cut near Knight's Landing to drain the lower part of the district into the Yellow Bypass.
So now we have a functioning flood control system, and that expands the possibilities for the use of the land exponentially. However, we have one problem, and that's how do we remove the water that pooled from the winter rains so we can then actually get on the ground and farm it in the spring.
Reclamation District 108 is a bathtub. We're actually lower than the surrounding river. First, they prevented the water from flowing in, and then what water did come in, they had to get it out. And that was a problem for them. They tried to make weirs to let it flow out, but the land is so low that wouldn't work. So the district built the Rough and Ready pumping plant.
Rough and Ready was built to drain the water out of the district. When the river was high, the water wouldn't run out of the district, it would pond, so they had to have a pump to pump the water out of the district back into the river.
Rough and Ready was unique at the time. It represented a major investment by the families that farmed here to continue to provide security from flood control.
So the pumping plants during a flood event take all of that drainage water and pump it back into the river to ensure that the farmland stays dry and we can get back into production as soon as possible.
It's incredible that that plant that's 110 years old is timeless. If we were to build another plant today, we might build one just exactly like that.
With the ability to now pump water on and off the land, it set up opportunities to irrigate in ways rarely seen in California at the time.
Initially, when the farmers took water out of the Sacramento River, most of the irrigation that they used was flood irrigation. They just opened up water and let it flow across the land. They might put little small levees to control it for better irrigation. So they could only raise crops that were suitable to that kind of irrigation.
As we were able to move through in time and technology, then we went into actual row crops for furrow irrigation that allows us to be very specific where we put that water and let it kind of merge out onto the bed at the time. And from there, we're actually getting into drip irrigation now, which is opening up a world of possibilities for other crops.
While rice still remains king, walnut orchards, tomatoes, corn, alfalfa, and beans started to sprout up throughout the district. The landowners became a little concerned about our water supply, And due to increasing number of drought years and increasing water regulations, landowners decided they better take some very aggressive steps to address these issues.
So with the completion of Shasta Dam in 1945, the flow patterns in the river were dramatically changed. And because of the district's prior water rights, that brought the landowners and the Bureau together to negotiate an agreement to establish water rights into the future.
Our forefathers were very innovative in the 70s, and they went and they put in a recycling plant called the Sycamore plant. What they learned was they could reduce the amount of water, called project water, by 30%.
They put in the recycling plant. That allows for the water to come back up through the north end and be spread out again across the landscape. So RD-108 is using that same drop of water 4 times before it goes back to the river.
With water conservation, every drop really matters. So one of the things the district has done is they have installed all of these Doppler meters on all of the inlets to all the fields. These watermen go around with these meters, and the Doppler reads how many cubic feet per second are coming out. Instantly, I have that number on my phone, and then I can figure out when I need to make a cutoff for that water.
It's telling us how much CFS is going to our fields, so we can figure that out, instantly. We're managing our resource the best and using exactly when we need it.
All of these things took foresight from people long ago, because when we needed it was much later. And so they had to make that investment early on in order for it to pay off for a future generation. And I think that's what's really characteristic of RD-108 is there's been these mavericks, these leaders who are able to see farther ahead and then make an investment that may not have paid off for them, but paid off for the next generation.
The people of this district were not done finding innovative ways to use the land and water that's available. Once neglected and almost ignored, wildlife began to receive long overdue attention. But how would it work? How could you find a way to grow crops and help the species that call this place home?
In the early 90s in California, we banned rice straw burning because it had significant impacts to air quality in the Sacramento region. And in response to that, rice growers began to flood their post-harvest fields to actually help decompose the rice straw that remained on those fields. And the response from birds was almost instantaneous. We saw waterfowl and shorebirds start to use these winter fields in huge numbers.
Prior to us starting to flood the fields, the populations were diminishing. And now we host lots of different shorebirds, game birds, waterfowl. We turned something, we thought it was a lemon, and now we have lemonade because we get multiple benefits from that.
Birds are relying on rice fields and other agricultural fields for a significant portion of their diet and as places to stop and rest and refuel as part of their migratory journey. So if we want to help recover bird populations and have them into the future, we have to work with districts like RD-108 to be able to find solutions that work within the agricultural context and ultimately that support the birds in the Pacific Flyway.
To get an entire salmon population to recover, you can't just do a postage stamp here and a postage stamp over there. You actually have to fundamentally change the landscape. That's what the bird work did. It wasn't over hundreds of acres or thousands, it was hundreds of thousands of acres. Now we have a chance to model the same idea for fish. The science is really clear. When a small fish gets out of the river and onto the floodplain, it gets big in a hurry, it gets fat, it has access to all the food that's made out here on the floodplain. But what RD-108 realized in partnership with Cal Trout and others was that the majority of that formerly activated floodplain marshland is now cut off from the river by flood protection levees. But that doesn't mean that these lands can't be a critical component in fish recovery. That's because we can grow the food here out in these surrogate marshes and then drain it back into the river where it can benefit fish.
It's really rewarding to know like what we do, all these little day-to-day decisions are making an impact bigger than our little footprint in RD 108.
When we think of salmon now, we're thinking of the entire life cycle. And really, where do they need our help? The spawning grounds up in Redding, we've got gravel projects there to help increase spawning. We come down here, we're using our fields to grow food and put that back into the river to help with nourishment in the river. And then downstream, we're also helping redirect salmon when they get lost in the wrong channels.
We have gone from ignoring the environment and just providing water to farmers, trying to be good farmers. But now what we realize is we have to live with nature. And we've really grasped that, and we're running with it. And our enthusiasm is contagious. It's traveled outside the boundaries of District 108, and other people want to be doing what we're doing as well. And I think that's one of our greatest successes here.
RD 108 has been a big part of actually creating the flood protection system that we have today. They've also been critical in changing the way we think about farming. And now we have this incredible chance to model what a 21st century river really looks like.
I just think that RD 108's made up with a lot of mavericks. They're just willing to take these risks.
I think it's almost genetic, or it's a cultural thing. I think it's built into us to kind of be on our own and take the risk. I call it rolling the dice. Farmers roll the dice.
So how will RD 108 look in 150 years? I think what you see today, the thriving farmland, will still be there. They'll be more integrated with the environment, the conservation efforts. We'll still be battling the river and holding back the floodwaters, but we'll be innovative and we'll be continually evolving to be better.
I don't know where we're going to be in 20 or 30 or 50 years from now, but I tell you what, RD 108 is going to be part of the solution.
My hope is that I'd still see all of these small farms, these small family farms here, next generation having the same sort of guts that the generations before them had.
For 150 years, this district has been about innovation, about finding ways to solve complex problems. And when we think of the next century and beyond, there is no doubt this spirit will remain here for a very long time.
I hope everybody enjoyed that small piece of RD 108, and it can really try to bring to life how we feel life is here for everybody in the district, and how proud we are to be part of this district. With that, we have one more speaker for the day, our keynote speaker, Kevin O'Brien. Kevin has been a longtime counsel for RD 108. And has been a great mentor to a lot of us on the board. And we really appreciate all the work that Kevin's done for us and will continue to do for us into the future. Kevin, it's all yours.
Thank you, Roger. As I was leaving the house this morning, my wife gave me two pearls of wisdom. She said, be entertaining and be brief. And I said, well, I can control one of those, but the other's in the hands of the audience, so we'll see how I do. It is truly an honor for me to speak here today. I've spent almost a quarter of a century now working with RD 108, first as George Bassey's protege and Many of you knew and loved George. And eventually I took over as the general counsel. And so I've spent a lot of years working with the board, working with the staff. And I think I have a pretty good sense of this place. And I think the video did an outstanding job of capturing that, but I want to just maybe underscore a couple points. The Sacramento Valley in general and RD 108 in particular, I think are quite unique. And I work all over the state for various water districts, and I sit in a lot of boardrooms, and I hear a lot of decisions being made. And the one aspect of this region that stands out to me, and it was really captured in the video, is the ethic of stewardship. The sense that we're going to make decisions not just for the short term, not just for immediate gain, but we're thinking about future generations. And I think Kim Gallagher and some of her comments in the video captured this very nicely. And I've seen that time and again as I've been involved in various decisions, sometimes very difficult decisions with the board and the management. And they always bring that long view to solving problems. And I think that is one of the reasons why we're here today. This district was formed 5 years after the end of the Civil War. A lot of American institutions don't make it to 150 years. And one of the reasons why this district has not only survived but flourished is because of the vision, the courage, the creativity, the energy of the people that came before. And I'm confident that that will be the case with the next generation. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole history of the district. I know many of you have read George's book, and it's a wonderful book, and I commend it to you. I was thinking, to follow up on the supervisor's comment, I've been thinking about ordering some baseball caps with Swampland District number 108 on them, and we could have a competition about the logo of the swamp. So that's one of my projects for the next few years. But the early days of the district were hard, and I commend that history to you. I think you can appreciate the courage it took to get through that period. But I want to focus my comments today on the most recent period. And if you read George's book, the very last chapter, chapter 16, is called Accommodating the Environment. And that was kind of the sea change that occurred starting, I would say, in the mid to late 1990s. The world started to change, and I think that was about the time I came on the scene. That was also about the time that Fritz Durst joined the board. A lot of that was in the wake of the decision by a United States District Court judge in Sacramento to enjoin diversions at Glen-Colusa Irrigation District due to Endangered Species Act issues. And I think that event really caused people to realize that the world was changing, and that what we had done in the past and what we had focused on in the past wasn't going to be enough. We needed to get out in front of these environmental concerns about fish populations, concerns about water quality, and we needed to have a plan. And that's exactly what this district did, along with others in the valley. And since the mid-90s, I've been part of some very creative projects and initiatives. I mean, one of them is right over here, the fish screen that was built with federal and state funding. That was a big deal. And I remember going to Washington with Emery Poundstone and Fritz and others on those first trips. And it was a whole new world. But it was wonderful to see Emery, the statesman that he was, kind of lead our team. And I know it was very instructive for Fritz and I to see how it's done. And I think we've since then emulated that and extended that, much of it with the work of Louis Baer since he came on board. So there are many challenges ahead for Reclamation District 108, but I am confident that the ethic of stewardship and the energy that was brought over the last 150 years will be brought forward over the next 50, 100, 150 years. And I actually think it's a very exciting time. I was talking to somebody in the audience earlier, and we were saying, you know, wouldn't it be cool if we could look back in 20, 25 years and say, this is where the old paradigm really shifted. It was no longer farmers against fish. It was no longer North against South. It was people working together to solve difficult problems and improving the world, frankly. So that's what I see. It's truly an honor for me to be part of this organization and an honor to speak here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate those words and your continued support, and look forward to working with you in the future. And I know Meredith is here, or she was here, and looking forward to continuing that path forward. But with that, it comes to the event is going to come to a close. But before it does, I do want to let everybody know that those fish drives that are being passed out, they do have the video on it. So everybody can have a copy of that video. And please feel free. There's some books and other things there. But again, you know, I would just like to say thank you on behalf of RD 108. Thank you for coming, and thank you for putting up with the heat and everything else. And before we do go, you know, one person out of this was mysteriously, he's always absent in the video and everything. But again, you know, I want to say thank you to our manager, Louis Baer, for all the hard work and for pushing everything forward all the time. He's a true leader, and we are very grateful to have him. With that, thanks for coming, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.